Hey there and welcome. Today we're going to learn how to solve absolute value equations algebraically. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, the first thing that we need to know is what absolute value actually is. An absolute value is the distance that a number is from zero. And because it's distance, it is always going to be a positive answer. Always. Absolute value is always positive. So let's take a look at that. If I have the absolute value of 2, and these bars here just mean absolute value. If I have the absolute value of 2, that means that the number 2 is 2 spaces away from 0. So our answer is 2. But then also if I have negative 2, the absolute value of negative 2. Negative 2 is also 2 spaces away from 0. So its answer is actually just a positive 2. It's like saying that you're taking a walk and you have your watch on that calculates your steps. And you walk 5 steps, so it adds 5 steps. If you walk backwards 5 steps, it's not going to erase the steps that you already took. It's going to add some more because distance is always positive. Absolute value is distance, so it's positive. So let's get into some solving. All right, so here we have the absolute value of x plus 3 plus 2 equals 7. And our whole goal is that we want to get x by itself, and so we start by isolating just the absolute value symbols. Everything that's inside of there's got to stay there. So we have to get rid of everything outside. So it's kind of like our circle of don't touch, but a little bit more. So I'm going to get rid of this 2 by subtracting 2 to both sides, and I'm left with the absolute value of x plus 3 equals 5. Now, once our absolute value bars are completely isolated, we have another step we have to take, and it's really confusing for people. Now remember up here, we had 2 different things that gave us the answer of positive 2. We had a positive 2 and a negative 2, because absolute value has 2 answers, which means that we're going to have 2 answers for this problem as well. So once we get those absolute value bars isolated, I'm going to break it off into 2 separate equations. And the first one is that the absolute value of x plus 3 equals 5, which is what we were given. And that second one is that the absolute value of x plus 3 equals negative 5. Because inside those absolute value bars, I can have a positive 5 answer, I can have a negative 5. They will both give me the same. Once we've hit this part, we can actually get rid of those bars, so we just have x plus 3 equals 5 and x plus 3 equals negative 5. And we're going to solve like normal. So we'll subtract 3 from both sides and both equations, and we end up with x equals 2 and x equals negative 8. But we can also check this. So let's actually check these 2 answers and make sure that they actually work. I'm going to take them and plug them back into my original equation and see what happens. So if I have the absolute value of x plus 3 plus 2 equals 7, first I'm going to replace that x with the 2 that I got. So the absolute value of 2 plus 3 plus 2 equals 7. Well, the absolute value of 2 plus 3 is 5. Once we've done the math inside, we can get rid of those bars. Plus 2 equals 7. And we end up with 7 equals 7, which is true. So x equals 2 is in fact accurate. The other answer that I got was negative 8, so I'm going to plug in negative 8 for x. So negative 8 plus 3 plus 2 equals 7. Well, negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5 plus 2 equals 7. The absolute value of negative 5 is positive 5 because it's distance. And 5 plus 2 is 7, and 7 does in fact equal 7. So negative 8 is also our answer. So again, absolute value problems give us 2 separate answers. It doesn't always mean that one is positive and one is negative, but we always have 2 separate answers. Let's go ahead and look at another one. All right, this time we have that negative 2 times the absolute value of x plus 4 equals negative 6. Now I need you to realize it is so important. Do not distribute. Do not. This is not a parenthesis. You cannot distribute into the absolute value. The only way that you can get rid of that -2 is to divide by -2. -2 divided by -2 gives us that +1, so we are left with the absolute value of x plus 4 equals -6 divided by -2 is +3. Now we have our absolute value isolated. I'm going to break it off into my 2. So I have the absolute value of x plus 4 equals 3. I have the absolute value of x plus 4 equals -3. Again, we take what it's supposed to equal and we make one positive, one negative. Once we've broken it off into 2 separate equations, we can get rid of those absolute value bars and solve like normal. And we get that x equals -1 and x equals -7. Again, I would always recommend checking your answer just to make sure that you're good. So if I have -2 times the absolute value of x plus 4 equals -6, I'm going to replace that x with the -1 that I got. So I have -2 times the absolute value of -1 plus 4 equals -6. -1 plus 4 is 3. The absolute value of 3 is 3. And once I've taken the absolute value, I can then change it to those parentheses for that multiplication. But you have to take the absolute value of it first. And we get that -6 equals -6, which is good. So we know that x equals -1 is in fact the correct answer. Let's check that other one. So I have -2 times the absolute value of -7 plus 4 equals -6. The absolute value of -7 plus 4 gives me the absolute value of -3 equals -6. Again, take the absolute value first. The absolute value of -3 is a +3. Once you've taken the absolute value, you can get rid of the symbols and change it to parentheses for that multiplication. -2 times +3 is -6. -6 does in fact equal -6, so we also know that x equals -7 is our answer. All right, let's look at one more problem. All right, so this last problem we have is the absolute value of x minus 4 equals -9. And remember that my whole goal is to isolate the absolute value bars and everything that's inside of it. So we have to get rid of everything else outside. So in order to do that, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And I'm going to put the absolute value of x equals -5. Now, this is the part where people want to instantly go into their 2 equations, but it's so important to remember. We just got a negative answer. We have that the absolute value of something is negative, and absolute value is not negative. Absolute value is always positive. So if we end up with absolute value isolated by itself equals a negative number, our answer is going to be no solution. Because there is absolutely nothing that you can plug in for x, take the absolute value of, and end up with a negative answer. Make sure that you are paying super close attention to that. And that is solving absolute value equations algebraically. So until next time, I will see you later. Love you, bye.